I'm 78 years old. My name is Michael, and I've spent most of my life believing I had more time than I actually did. That belief didn't come from arrogance. It came from comfort, from routine, from the quiet assumption that tomorrow would arrive the same way today did, and that if something mattered enough, I'd get to it eventually. I'm sitting alone as I say this. The house is quiet in a way that only happens after decades of noise finally fade. No footsteps upstairs, no voices drifting in from another room. Just the sound of the clock which I used to ignore and now hear constantly. What I'm about to tell you isn't a lesson. It's not advice. It's just a confession that took me too long to say out loud. For most of my adult life, I worked in an office, a good job, respectable. I sat at a desk for hours at a time, 5 days a week, sometimes more. Meetings, paperwork, phone calls, long lunches that turned into longer afternoons staring at a screen. I told myself I earned that chair. I told myself rest meant sitting still. I didn't think of it as choosing stillness. I thought of it as stability. In my 30s and 40s, I felt fine. A little stiff in the mornings maybe, a little tired in the evenings. Nothing dramatic, nothing that made me stop and ask questions. I exercised sometimes, took walks on weekends, went to the gym when guilt outweighed convenience, and that was enough, or at least it felt like enough. Sleep was the same story. I was proud of needing less of it, 5 hours, sometimes 6. I wore that like a badge, told people I didn't need much rest as if my body had somehow evolved beyond the basics. Most nights I fell asleep with the television on, woke up once or twice, sometimes more. I didn't call it a problem. I called it normal. Everyone I knew slept that way. Loneliness didn't announce itself either. It arrived quietly. Friends got busy, then moved away, then stopped calling. Conversations became shorter, visits less frequent. I still saw people, technically, at work, at family events. But real conversations became rare without me noticing when they disappeared. I ate the way I was taught to eat. Bread in the morning, something sweet with coffee, pasta because it was easy, cereal because the box said it was healthy, low fat, everything. I trusted labels more than my own body. And worry. Worry was always there. I worried about money even when I had enough. I worried about my children even when they were grown. I worried about things that never happened and some that couldn't be changed. I didn't call it anxiety. I called it responsibility. None of these choices felt dangerous. That's the part people don't talk about. The things that shorten your life rarely feel dramatic while you're doing them. They feel reasonable, familiar, harmless. The cost doesn't show up all at once. It accumulates quietly. I missed dinners because I was tired. I postponed trips because there would be time later. I sat through entire evenings without standing, once telling myself I'd move tomorrow. Then tomorrow became years. The first real warning didn't come as pain. It came as fatigue that didn't go away. Mornings felt heavier. My legs felt weaker. My memory slipped in small, embarrassing ways. Names, appointments, simple words I knew but couldn't reach. Still, I didn't panic. I told myself this was just aging, as if aging were something that happened to you, not something shaped by how you live. It took loss to slow me down, not all at once, just enough to make the silence louder. I won't tell you yet what finally broke through to me. That came later, much later than it should have, but sitting here now at 78, I can say this with certainty. Most of what wears us down after 60 doesn't feel like danger while it's happening. It feels like life as usual, and that's why so many people don't see it coming. If you're still listening, stay with me a little longer. There are things I wish someone had said to me before I learned them the hard way. I used to think decline happened suddenly. A fall, a diagnosis, a sharp turn you could point to and say, that's where things changed. That isn't how it went. It happened in increments so small, I barely noticed them while they were happening. A shorter walk, a heavier breath, a longer pause before standing up. I adapted without realizing I was adapting downward. In my 50s, I still felt capable. I could work all day, sit all evening, sleep poorly, and repeat it again the next morning. My body absorbed the abuse quietly. I mistook that silence for strength. By my early 60s, things shifted, not dramatically, just enough to be annoying. I remember standing up from my chair one afternoon and feeling lightheaded. I laughed it off. I blamed the coffee. Another time, I realized I'd been sitting for nearly 3 hours without moving. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else for a moment. I didn't connect the dots. I rarely do. Most people don't. Sleep became fragmented. I'd wake at 2 or 3 in the morning and stare at the ceiling, replay conversations that didn't matter anymore. I told myself this was just part of getting older. I didn't ask what it was costing me. Loneliness became harder to name. I was still married then, still working, still surrounded by people in a technical sense, but the conversations were thin, functional, about schedules, errands, problems to solve. The kind of talking where you don't say what you're actually feeling. Food started working against me in ways it never had before. Blood sugar crept up. Weight settled in places it never used to. I felt sluggish after meals and sharp hunger not long after eating. I blamed age again. It was an easy explanation. It required no change. And worry. Worry became my background noise. I worried while driving. I worried while eating. I worried while lying in bed next to someone I loved. It was never loud enough to call panic. It was constant enough to drain me. I see now that I lived in a low-level state of tension for years. My shoulders rarely relaxed. My jaw was always tight. My thoughts rarely rested. I thought this was just how responsible adults lived. Then came the losses. Friends first, one heart attack, one stroke, one cancer that moved too fast to outrun. Funerals started filling my calendar more than celebrations. Each one felt like an exception. Bad luck, genetics, fate. I didn't notice the pattern until much later. The ones who went earliest weren't always the sickest. They were often the stillest, the most isolated, the most tired in ways sleep didn't fix. My wife began to slow down around the same time. Her knees hurt, so she sat more. She stopped going out as often. Sleep became a battle she refused to address. She ate what she always had because changing felt exhausting. I worried about her constantly. Ironically, that worry never translated into action. Concern without change is just fear wearing a polite mask. Years passed that way. Quietly, predictably. If I could go back to that version of myself, I wouldn't shake him or lecture him. I'd just sit down next to him and say one thing: this isn't neutral. What you're doing every day is adding up to something, and you won't see the total until it's almost too late. That understanding didn't arrive all at once. It took something irreversible to finally slow me enough to see it. I'll tell you about that next. I learned too late because the moment that finally stopped me was my wife's decline, not her death. The years before it, watching someone you love fade in inches changes how time feels. It slows everything. It makes every choice louder. When she was gone, the house didn't feel empty. It felt unfinished. I began standing up every hour because sitting reminded me of waiting. I fixed my sleep because nights were too long to waste half awake. I changed how I ate because I wanted days that felt clear. I called people because silence was starting to answer back. None of this made me younger. It made me present. I live alone now. I cook simple meals. I walk most mornings. I sleep about 7 hours. I still worry, but I don't live inside it anymore. I don't believe I earned this time. I believe I protected what was left. If this story means anything to you, don't overhaul your life. Just notice one quiet habit that feels harmless and ask what it's costing you. I don't know how long I have. I know I'm closer to the end than the beginning. That doesn't scare me anymore. That frightens me.